Welcome to the Sand Science Experience podcast, where we explore the latest and most exciting papers and preprints in science. Before we jump in, please take a moment to like this deep dive and subscribe. It really helps support the Sand Science Experience, and allows us to keep bringing you these insightful explorations. Today, we're diving into something I think many of us grapple with. Weight loss maintenance. It's one thing to lose the weight, but keeping it off, that's often the real challenge, isn't it?
It really is, exactly. And our mission today is to unpack a compelling news study. It's from the journal Obesity. It followed over, I think, 1,500 adults who had successfully lost weight. The goal was understanding how their diet, specifically the macronutrient composition, impacted their ability to maintain that loss over a whole year.
Okay, let's break this down then. We often focus so much on just calories, right? But this study talks about protein in a different way. There's this concept, the protein leverage hypothesis. How does that kind of flip things around?
Right. Well, what's fascinating here is this idea that our bodies are actually remarkably good at regulating how much protein we take in. The hypothesis suggests we have this specific innate protein target. And if the proportion of protein in our diet gets too low, if it's sort of diluted by fats and carbs, our bodies basically compel us to keep eating more food overall, just until we hit that essential protein target, even if that means taking in way more calories from everything else.
Wow. Okay, so it's not just about like willpower or counting every single calorie. It's our body's biology, this fundamental drive. That's a pretty big shift in perspective. So how did the study actually show this? How did they connect that drive to what people ate and ultimately their weight?
Well, they use a really interesting approach. It's called nutritional geometry. Think of it like mapping out how different nutrients interact in our diet and how that influences our eating behavior. It goes beyond just looking at single foods in isolation. And they found that a lower percentage of energy from protein, diluted by high fat or high carbohydrate or both, was definitely associated with eating more food and taking in more energy overall.
And that led to?
That directly led to greater increases in body weight over the 12 months, and importantly also in metrics like waist-to-height ratio and hip-to-height ratio.
Ah, right. Those give a better picture of fat distribution and health risks, not just the number on the scale.
Exactly. Much clearer picture.
That's a really strong link then. But if protein dilution is the issue, what specific foods were the main culprits here? Did the study point fingers?
It did, actually. What's particularly striking is that the research really zeroed in on what they call discretionary foods. High consumption of these foods was strongly linked to increased energy intake, mainly because they significantly drop the overall protein concentration in the diet.
Discretionary food. So we're talking about things like what? Cakes, biscuits, deep fried stuff, sugary drinks?
Precisely. Those kinds of foods. They typically offer a very low percentage of protein. The study mentioned around maybe 4.4% of their energy comes from protein.
Wow, only 4.4%. Compare that to, say, lean meats or even some vegetables.
Big difference, yeah. Core foods like lean meats, fish, legumes, even vegetables, they offer much higher percentages. Anywhere from, say, 18.5% up to almost 40% protein energy.
So it's like these discretionary foods are, they're essentially watering down the protein in our overall diet.
That's a good way to put it. And the study suggests that eating these low-protein, high-fat, high-carb foods kind of tricks our bodies. We keep eating, driven by that underlying need for protein, which just makes long-term weight maintenance incredibly difficult.
It really makes you rethink those easy-to-grab snacks and treats, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
So this deep dive really highlights that keeping up a decent proportion of energy from protein, specifically by maybe limiting those high-carb, high-fat discretionary foods, that seems key. Key to reducing overall energy intake and actually improving long-term weight loss maintenance.
Yeah, and it raises a really important question, I think. We live in a world just full of these easily accessible, really palatable foods that dilute protein. So how can we, consciously reprioritize protein? How do we work with our body's natural regulation instead of constantly fighting against it?
Right.
Yeah.
What if understanding that innate drive for protein, what if that is the key? Maybe the key to finally cracking the code on long-term health. Shifting focus from just counting calories to actually balancing nutrients properly. Lots to think about there. Thanks for diving deep with us on this important topic. If you found this discussion insightful, please do like this video and subscribe to the Sand Science Experience for more explorations into cutting-edge science.